Alright, the purpose of this video is to make a pressure box for the oxyacetylene welding class. Pressure box, outside corner welds. You're going to have 6 pieces, 1/8 of an inch thick by 4-inch square plates. Fabricate and weld up a 4x4 square box. All pieces should be cut to exactly the same dimensions and taken extreme care to fit them up precisely. Tack 2 pieces together, use RG60 or RG65 filler rod, steps illustrated below. So in step 1 there on the left, you're going to make 2 L pieces, weld them together. We just want to tack the whole box up before we weld it completely out. If you see in step 3 there, we want to fit up the inside edges of the box. So we're going to go over to the shear, cut our pieces, and we'll start there. 1/8 inch thick piece of carbon steel, put in the shear. We're going to turn it on and set our measurements. You can set the measurements. I'll describe in class how to set up the shear. So we'll turn it on here and we'll cut our pieces. Okay, we got our 2 pieces of metal here, and it's important that we line up our 2 inside edges. So when we're looking at this, we want the inside edge touching the inside edge, like this, when we're going to tack it up. And we want all 6 sides to be tacked up the same way. The very inside edge to the inside edge is the only parts we want touching here. So we turn our torch on. Looking for 2 little tacks, just enough to keep it together so it's still a little flexible. And we're going to set up, and we're going to do 2 tacks on the other L piece also. Sometimes if the pieces just don't want to quite fuse, you got to add a little bit of filler wire to it. Okay, so again, just a big enough tack to hold it together. Fit it up so that 2 of these edges are together, and the better the fit up you have, the better of a weld you can make. You should be able to even weld a bad fit up, but we want to get a good head start here. Okay, so just a big enough tack to hold those 2 together. Flip it around and do the other side. Sometimes while it's still molten, you can put a little pressure on it and squeeze that gap nice and tight closed, so it'll even be a better fit up. So there's our 4 pieces. Now we want to add the top and the bottom. And again, we want to get this lined up as best as we can, just the inside edges touching. The closer we have the inside edges to touching means the nicer of a fillet weld you're going to have on the outside. So that a little bit more metal we can put in there as we fuse the two of them together with a filler rod, and it'll give you a better seal because we don't want any leaks when we go to put the air test to it. What we're going to do later on is we're going to drill a hole, tap it, fill this box with water, and then put an air fitting in it and apply air pressure to it. And if there's any leaks, you're going to see them because the water is going to come squirting out of them. So we want to get this the best weld we can make so that we don't have any leaks. Okay, now that we got all our edges tacked up, we're going to start welding this up. I don't think I mentioned earlier I have a 205. That's pretty blurry here, but it's a 205 torch tip, and we got it set at a neutral flame, so we have a nice bright blue cone in the middle. You can't hardly see it on the camera, but nice bright sharp blue cone in the middle. And not too much oxygen or not too much acetylene. It's a nice quiet flame. So we're going to go ahead and weld this box. Okay, I don't think it specifies on the sheet whether it has to be welded horizontal or vertical, so I'll leave it up to you at this point. And then I tend to spend a little more time in the corners making sure they're tied in nice, to make sure that they all fuse together and melt good, because a lot of the leaks tend to happen in the corners. So as we're welding this box up, we're going to weld opposites. We'll take it over to the quench tank. We're going to drill a hole in it, tap the hole, fill it with water, put our air fitting in there, and then we'll put some air pressure on and see if we got any leaks. Okay, so here we got our pressure box in the vise. Now we're going to turn the drill bit on, and we want to drill that hole right in the center. Make sure that the box is clamped down firmly so that once the drill bit goes through, it doesn't grab the box and go spinning all over the place. Okay, this drill bit here, I want to say is a 7/16, and that's going to match up with this tap that we have. And the tap is kept in the back in the blue cabinet. So we put the tap in the tap handle, and we get it started in the hole here. And we want to make sure that it starts nice and straight. So when we first start it off, it takes a little bit, but we put some downward pressure and spin it and make sure that it goes in nice and straight. Okay, once we get a couple of threads in there, we're going to go about 2 times around. Then we're going to break the chip backwards. Then we're going to go another 2 times around, and same thing, we'll break the chip backwards. And we want to thread this hole just about 3/4 of the way, because it is a it is a tapered tap, and we want to make sure that the threads on this air fitting, these are tapered also. And if we thread it too deep, then the size of the tap is going to be too big and the fitting will be loose in there, and we're going to have some air leaks out of the fitting, and we don't want that. Okay, once we have the hole deep enough, we're going to spin the tap all the way out of there. Be careful when it gets to the end that you don't screw up the threads. That's it. Okay, once we get the hole in there and the tap out, we're going to take it out of the vise, and we're going to take it over to the quench tank and fill it with water. Okay, here we are at the quench tank. We're going to take this basket, put our box in there, and dump it down in the water, and we'll wait until the bubbles stop. Then we know that it's full of water. Do not fill it up with air until it is full of water. Okay, so here's our box full of water. We'll get our fitting started in there. Normally we would put some Teflon tape around this to make a better seal, or some pipe dope. And once we get it in there by hand, we take our wrench and tighten it up. And make sure that it's good and snug so that we get a good seal. We don't want any air leaking out of there. Okay, so here we are back over by the quench tank. We're going to put our air fitting on it. It has a little collar on it. We pull that back, push it down on there, make sure it's on there good and firm, and then we're going to go turn on the air. And we got a little bit of a leak right around our fitting because again we didn't put any Teflon tape on there. It's the water running down the other side. But if we look at the welds, there's no leaks. So that's a good one. And when shutting it off, we would shut the air off up here. You stand this box up and you pull this collar off, but watch out because the water is going to come shooting out of the top, so aim it down into the quench tank when you do it. And that should be about it. That's our pressure box. Thanks.